Alright. We're going to come up with a topic. It's going to be something that people can get into, not something that I constantly try to make up. Understandably so, I know things. It's the reason why oh, man. So guys, gals, people out there enjoying your lives. What are you thinking about? What are you talking about? And that's pretty much it. So just being myself, you know, just gonna go online in it. Alright guys, I'm gonna do some stuff, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna play a race. I think we're gonna play a race of transformative nature. And hopefully we're gonna find out something, because I find out that stuff is I farted, and that's something right there. I farted. And just stare at a couple of things and stuff. And I'm gonna have to shred a couple things. Gonna have to shred it all, probably. All right. All right. Gonna realize there are just certain things you don't go near, and gonna let this thing load. Other things that you don't go near, you're gonna realize that people are misbehaviors, so like to do a bunch of different pranks and do stupid shit, and their spirits came from the underworld. Their spirits came from the evil, evil underworld. And they are to be punished because punish. Mostly because of terrorism. Mostly. So we're gonna realize that we have a blue car that's 2 shades of blue, and a black car that's 2 shades of black. We're gonna drive around in that black car that's 2 shades of black. One's like a flat black, the other is like a flat black. And understandably so, tone does not variate between what you actually mean about something. That is something made up by people who try to continue to act like they're freaking retarded, and they don't know anything. But understandably so, they know they're stupid. Alright.
Don't say anything.
I won't say anything at all. No worries, guys. We're going to talk about magnets again. Oh, shit. No, we're not talking about magnets again. So, we're going to talk about other stuff. And, we're going to talk about, The different polarities of the sun, the moon, and the rest of the different planets in the solar system, and how that pertains to the different polarities that there are in our universe. Alright. People are paying attention. You're going to understand the different polarities in the universe. Use ionic bonds. And if there is a turbine that is in somewhere, somehow, that's trying to run on some sort of energy, that's probably the reason why it shut down. Because that is also the reasons why people don't understand that there is a polarity within our universe, within our planets, around us, all around us sometimes, that is the reversal of that. See, this is what happens to a bunch of different things as they come out of a circuit board. As a circuit board is made, or whatever is made, it is meant to adhere a certain charge to it. And when that certain charge is dispersed into the atmosphere, it creates a vibration. Hence the reason why sometimes your what's the word? Your PlayStation 4 has those little clicks or whatever, or certain little things that people are trying to say is some from otherworldly force. It's a certain magnet trying to reset itself. So, as that certain magnet resets itself, you have to understand that that certain magnet itself, it always resets, no matter what. It's the reason why sometimes whenever you're around something, you have a click near you, it's because your systems make vibrations, and those vibrations can sometimes turn into hits, or different tiny little things. And those vibrations, as they snowball sometimes, because they move through the air all the time because of ionic bonds and quantum force. People didn't know there's a quantum force, because there is a quantum force. It's very, very singular and extremely and utterly hard to be able to measure. The realization of what I saw on some people's stuff, quantum teleportation and all of those.
Hello there.
Quantum teleportation and quantum force are two coinciding forces. When people themselves try to hold quantum, or to hold what is in a quantum state, people don't understand that that is our potential future, or what our potential future might be. When you try to hold that quantum state, that is the reason why sometimes people get weird, what's the word? Weird recordings sometimes, like when they dream something that's terrible, that something might happen, or it's like, this is not a dream, or this is not a dream, sort of thing, sort of state. So so that can also alter or affect different things. Quantum teleportation can affect different things around it, and god damn it, I'm going to die, but it's okay. Understandably so. That's what quantum teleportation does. It affects a quantum state inside of a different type of thing. And as a quantum force moves and isn't actually affected by wind, it's more affected by the radio waves. And that's the reason why you'll see a bunch of things like you'll hear sounds that you don't really notice, or you'll see things that you don't actually know about, or you'll see things that you can't possibly explain with physics. And that's the reason why quantum state exists, because of things that the Earth actually thinks about, because that's the reason why it thinks. It does think, because that's the reason why. Okay, so I can't have any cheats on this one, so I'm just going to keep going. Can't, because it doesn't allow me, so I won't. Alright. Understanding that there are a lot of different forces that pull quantum state.
Quite a digital foot.
Shut the fuck up. Anyways. There are a lot of different forces that pull quantum state, okay? When people make a reactor, like a nuclear reactor, or what they would call a nuclear reactor, because nuclear state does not actually exist as it used to. As the way that it used to cause plagues and a whole bunch of different stuff. It never exists as that, because, not because of anything, but because that was a, what's the word? An alien material, basically. A meteorite that might have hit that isn't moved, but its elements and its ions decided to move back to whatever state they were in. That's the reason why nuclear, as we exist at it now, doesn't exist in the state that it usually exists. So, understandably so, people are going to try to, or people who want to get those things, are going to try to figure out where that thing is in our no, it's not in our solar system, in our universe. And understandably so, that's the reason why we traveled, not the reason why, but the reason why our Earth probably tried to distance itself from something. So as quantum state starts to speed up or slow down, they'll understand that that force itself is not exactly a what's the word? That force, that quantum state, because the quantum state has a force, and it uses kinetic energy sometimes. Kinetic energy can be tied to a person or a thing, or maybe just even a turbine, or anything like that. But understandably so, people have to understand that it is very and unbelievably dangerous to actually do that, because things in quantum state are very, very unstable. It's the reason why they move and make choices in 2s and 3s, and then and hope so many some odd different prime or non-prime numbers, because it tries to stay random as much as it can until whatever started to cause it, or whatever is causing it, starts to quell the storm, or it starts to do something different to it, because it is a part of the Earth that in itself, I think, was not told or taught, but given a vibration, a certain vibration of emergency, or a certain vibration of something. And as that quantum state starts to move, they have to understand that in itself starts to imitate other elements. It emulates other elements because it's in quantum state. But only as it emulates other elements does it ever exist inside of our atmosphere. It doesn't exist below our atmosphere. It doesn't exist around our atmosphere. It exists in a quantum state at a certain point in our atmosphere. It's the reason why sometimes you see those things that look like pops or something like that, or things that move around sometimes in your eyes. Not really, like, it's not something moving around in your eyes, so to speak. It's not something that's ever going to be a part of your eyes, but it's something that is of a remnant, or something that was. And that's the reason why sometimes they didn't keep records of things, is because there were things they couldn't explain inside of certain environments. And as those certain things started to die, because either they were starving them because they didn't know what they ate, or they were just completely neglecting them because of stupid shit. They had to understand that animals around can feel the quantum state because of a certain, not a certain organ they have, but not the way that they see things, but the colors they see things in. And that's the reason why dogs can see certain things and run towards people who they think are people for emergency. I'm turning this off. God damn. God damn. Okay. So as you start to realize quantum state and understand the exact implications that it actually says, is that some people might think that quantum state is the spirit and or the remnants of an animal. It might be the remnants of an ionic bond within an animal, but it is not the remnants of an animal. It is not the spirit nor anything. Because, see, religion decided that there was something, that there was a remnants of something, and it could have been the remnants of a microbe that still has life, or has been reborn, or has been something, because quantum state can exist inside of an animal. That quantum state can tie them to different things. That is the reason why certain animals move in certain vibration patterns, because of a certain thing telling them to move in a certain area. And animals follow quantum state a lot because it moves to where things are, to where it's changed about it. That's the reason why, because it is the basic memory of what an animal used to do. So there's a lot of different things that quantum state actually does, and it moves around and acts like different animals and different things, because you have to understand that it is the ionic bonds that is and was the Earth. God, or whoever the scientist was that was God, decided that he was going to make something. Probably so, there are people that watched what he did and not what was helping him. There are a lot of different reasons why people don't understand what is religion and what people believe. And what people believe is that people are certainly endowed with certain things, like the X-Men and all those other different things from the MCU. Understand and notice that they chose and understandably took from something to get whatever they got, if it was or ever will be explained by science. And within Quantum State, once they took those things, that thing changed or morphed them as it left. So that's the science behind whatever the MCU is. However the MCU is, whatever the MCU might be, as something left their body, as a quantum ionic bond left their body, it left them changed forever. And one dude got claws and a healing power because of, yeah. Another dude got healing forever, and he faked like he got cursed with it, because technically it is a curse because of the fact that there are people around that you constantly live near and they're constantly aging and you're not. It's really hard, but understandably so. It's not that bad, because you have to understand that there are people like him in his universe, and that's the reason why it's good, because he realizes eventually, and they write this in most of the time, that he can be like a really cool guy, because in the MCU there are people and things that live for very, very long periods of time. So okay, let's get off comics now. Let's go on to back to Quantum State. So Quantum State moves through things. As Quantum State moves through things, people don't understand is that the belief of something or the fear of something isn't what makes it. It's the minerals and elements inside of your body. If that quantum state were ever to change you, it would change you forever. That means your personality would be different. Everything about you would be completely different, because you would mimic the ionic bonds that were inside of the quantum state when that happened. So it would turn a whole bunch of people who were evil into good, and it could turn a person who was completely and utterly straight a little bit effeminate. Because it doesn't actually change who you are. It just changes your masculinity to femininity. Femininity. And it doesn't change what personality you have. It doesn't change your actual wants or dislikes. It just adds something that you might like, because sometimes the ionic bonds in something change you because it's someone who you actually feel as though you want to be. And that's the ionic change that happens with mutation. So the ionic change that happens with mutation sometimes, or any kind of mutation in animals makes them evolve in certain areas, in certain ways. And a lot of what PETA and a lot of what stupid people have been trying to do or promote is that animals don't change, and they shouldn't change. They are an offset of a religion. And that sucks. And it's stupid, and that's the reason why they have no government control. So, understanding that there are a bunch of people out there that act within their own rights to be complete and utter goddamn terrorists about some stupid shit, they're going to understand that there are a lot of different people out there that know what ionic bonds, that certain ionic bonds do, and they will keep that a secret constantly. Because they don't want stupid people knowing what certain ionic bonds will make someone mutate. Because it's stupid. It's dumb to do that. Because if you don't know the consequences of it, if you don't know the actual consequences of it, then you could die. And that ionic bond could literally tear you limb from limb and make you, completely and utterly illiterate, or it could give you a disability instead of a thing if whatever ionic bond was changed. However that ionic bond changed you or at all, it could make you sit in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And that's probably what happened to Stephen Hawking, because I don't believe his parents ever had him. He probably was messing around with ionic bonds, and that's electric charges that don't be equal, I guess, or symmetrical. And that's what happens sometimes when people don't realize that those things happen. And there were a lot of things that people were messing around with back in the day that changed their personalities completely. And I think they did it on purpose, or some people did it on purpose, but nobody had any idea that they would just die sometimes. because the ionic bonds changed. And the thing, people have to realize that we change just like animals sometimes. Whenever we have a certain fear or a certain thing, it could be because something's happening, but it could also be because of something that we missed. No matter what that person's perceived notion of us is, that's the reason why I think that people become schizoaffective in the first place. Not the ionic bonds or anything like that, but the change that happens within your own personality. And that's the thing that I think that people don't really understand, is that it is a choice when it comes down to the matter of it, but also not only a choice, but an actual whatchamacallit, an actual what's the word? Certain realization, I guess, or what people would call anything like that. But ionic bonds within a certain person, whether it causes mutation or not, there are certain minerals that have to be in your body that actually have to make you able to do certain things. But also too, as people don't realize that there are people that, there are things that need to happen in order for a person to be able to heal themselves completely all the time. And as you heal, your skin gets thinner. So there are certain liquids you have to take in your body, certain minerals, certain foods, different things like that, certain vitamins you have to take all the time. So basically, if Wolverine was ever a real thing, he would have to eat 12 square meals a day. 12 square meals a day of, let's see, of 12 courses. He'd have to eat 12 courses and 12 square meals a day. Understandably so, if he was eating all that stuff, then he would be completely like a balloon. And that's the reason why that power itself, self-healing and all that other different stuff, is completely implausible when it comes to actual science. And that's the notion, because if you ever tried to make it connected to anyone else, you would have a system of rules you had to follow in order to keep those people alive, noticing that all the quantum state would actually have to happen to them in order for that to actually happen. So I'm doing this, and I'm not doing a race right now because that's the reason why. I've been talking about this stuff, and I know that it's something that I figured out when I was a young kid. So as quantum state eventually happens, people start to attach to those quantum states, and especially people who have people who have died, I guess. I farted again. Yes. All right. People who have died, or people who have who've let out certain things in their body or done certain things to themselves. You have to realize and understand that that there are a lot of reasons and a lot of things why things happen sometimes. The Earth kind of has a plan, I guess, and people try to manipulate that plan every single step that they have. Every single chance that they have, they try to manipulate some sort of plan all the time. When they try to manipulate whatever plan they're trying to manipulate, what they do is they try to mess with ionic bonds. That's the reason why it's a stupid thing to believe in God. To believe in God is to believe in stupidity, to me. Because what happens is your brain itself starts to create a certain part of your brain that's the reason why. The thought itself of giving whatever amount to certain people kind of stops you from thinking. That's the reason why they always say that God has an omnipresence or some sort of omnipotence or something like that. And it sucks because it makes parts of your brain lie dormant. And as that part of your brain lies dormant, people don't understand that they mess around with ionic bonds sometimes and all that other stupid shit. Especially if like you get a magnetic plate in your head, or if they did a surgery that was under, like if someone runs a magnet along someone's brain or someone's head that had a plate in it that before a certain time was magnetic, they have to understand that they have a personality disorder only because of a certain magnet coming in contact with their skull. There are also different reasons why certain things actually happen. Like quantum state being able to create a kinetic charge, and that kinetic charge being able to hold a kinetic hit or a kinetic motion, so to speak. So as that kinetic motion happens, people have to understand that within certain states of certain things that I don't know about because I never studied it, this is the reason why sometimes I stay stupid, is because I know that I know a lot of stuff. I studied a lot of stuff when I was younger, and I was able to come up with a bunch of different hypotheses about different states of matter. And that's the reason why. Not because of any teacher or any other person. It's because I figured it out on my own. I figured it out on my own, and I told no one, but understandably so. I knew for a fact that if I ever learned into it further, that I would be on a watch list. And I don't want to be on a watch list. Because my dad told me a bunch of stuff about the people that, not a bunch of stuff about the people that he used to hunt, but I know that he used to hunt them. And I'm not a dumbass. I would never talk about that ever, or try to guess, because it wouldn't happen. I said or try to guess. I didn't say try to guess. Alright, so certain quantum states exist because of certain motions that have happened, of certain things that the Earth itself either liked or disliked. People think sometimes within religion or certain things that if they believe hard enough, then that quantum motion or that sense of relief or that sense of self-undeprecation, they will believe in something else or something that's bigger than themselves. Unbelievably so, they are believing in a quantum state. If that quantum state decides that it's going to be there for someone or something, then it gets bigger. It snowballs into what people would call a reaction. And that's sometimes what you would see whenever people get into crashes and don't understand things, because they're connected by certain elements or certain things, and it's not exactly explainable, but it doesn't explain insurance scams. People don't realize that you can hack into your phone. You can hack into your phone and create a double screen. People go from double screen to double screen, or screen to screen, acting like they're on different phones. That's how sometimes people are able to make a certain thing happen and no one is able to trace it, because they're not able to actually check their phones. So technically they're just looking for or saying for a word or something like that, like someone says green to someone, and then they're hypnotized by something, by a phone, by something, by anything, by a certain thing that leaks off a certain vibration that holds a certain thing. And that's basically where hypnotism comes from. And there's a reason why I think sometimes hypnotism is illegal. I think it's illegal because I think there's a certain hum happening inside of a certain part of the stadium. Basically, sometimes the entrances, you don't believe it, sometimes you don't think it, you don't understand it, but it's a hum. And sometimes it can be the hum of an air conditioning, or the hum of something keeping the air in, or something like that. And that's the reason why there are people out there that can use those certain vibrations to be able to control people's actions. Granted, if people don't want to be that way, they can always disobey, but because it's not a heavy hypnotism, it's a lucid hypnotism, and lucid hypnotists always try to stay with their the people that are with them, in order to be able to give them a sense of comfort, or give them a sense of the things that they told them in a certain voice, so that they can control their movements. And within people don't realize that quantum state exists in certain kind of objects that release a low hum or low vibration. People would call that infrasound, or something that someone is afraid of. But people only try to associate that fear with infrasound because of the things that it can possibly do to people, like make their ears ring or do something different. Like it's like a motion or sound being controlled by the earth itself or by a certain state, basically holding that vibration within itself, and once it hits an object, or once the vibration itself tries to move through an object, it's stopped, and a ringing happens in your ears. So that's what happens. People say that they can throw sound, or they can shoot, like, and this is what happens when people try to say that they can basically blow out a candle from like a man holding it a certain direction. What they're trying to do is to blow the candle out, but they're trying to pull in enough air to be able to blow a candle out, to be able to push the air around the candle and to make it move. So that's the reason why. They're trying to pull in enough air as much as they can, and then try to move the wind while noticing that air itself is trying to be in a not a solid state, but a calm state, and move hot air with cold air. And that's how they're able to push a candle out, because of the hot air and cold air that go with the low and high pressure systems. It can create moisture in the air when there's a flame around, and that's the reason why all that stuff happens sometimes. So people can blow out candles by looking at them and trying to focus the heat in their mouth, or trying to blow a certain a certain fluctuation of lips. So, or a certain, not fluctuation, a certain shape of a lip. So where the high pressure system goes to the low pressure system, then creates moisture over the candle. They're not going to spit on it or anything like that. They're not going to spit on the candle, but this is what happens. So, as people realize that there are quantum states and low pressure and high pressure systems, when quantum states meet low pressure and high pressure systems, they can grab onto moisture, or what is moisture, I guess, and realize sometimes that's why sometimes your ears get wet, or sometimes your armpits get wet sometimes, and you don't notice it. It only affects the air around you, and when it affects the air around you, people don't understand that it can really, really affect the way that people view themselves, or actually want to view themselves. And there are a lot of people that think that they're doing it because of some sort of gift that they received from sort of person. Understandably so. Native Americans can be stupid as well because of their stupid things that they think that the earth itself is a female or some sort of male. The earth is asexual. The earth is asexual. Always been asexual. Always has been. Always will be, because it reproduces things from itself. It divides and constantly divides. That's the reason for the, oh my god, there's a billion planets out there. No, it just makes reflections of itself of stuff that it wants to be later on. That's the reason why. The reason for those magnets happening inside of it, and the reason why the nickel itself is charged. And as the nickel is charged, it moves around to different areas that have high mineral deposits that are magnetic and also sometimes aren't magnetic. People try to mine different things to be able to change a certain direction to be able to see what kind of different things they can have, because they know the sun to be able to have a pull on it, so it's not going to change at all, because the metal itself stays on the planet. And some people have to realize this, that every metal that we have ever used in the entire history of man has been either broken down or changed and been brought back to wherever it is. Not only understanding that, it has been not really brought back, but moved in quantum state. People don't understand that either, and understand how not only can it hold a motion, but it can hold a material. In quantum state, things can hold material, and that's the reason why. The reason why sometimes things divide when they're not supposed to divide. Or sometimes the things that move even though they're not supposed to move. That's the reason why sometimes people don't understand this, how powerful a system can be. This entire system right now is making my room so hot sometimes that I think sometimes I have to take it apart and dust the entire thing. That's the reason why people don't understand that a CPU can make an entire floor hot. It's the reason why people actually have those high powered air conditioners in offices and stuff like that. If there were no high-powered air conditioners in offices, then people would be sweating their fucking balls off, and it would be easy and hard and really hot in every single instance. And that's the reason why I don't play this stuff for very long, because I have to turn off my system and let it cool down.